All right, what's up, everybody? Going live on the eve of UFC 314. Looking forward to that card. I just did my prediction video on Wednesday, so y'all can check that out. It's got 35 views, been out for a couple of days. I'm waiting for the algorithm to really push that video out there. Which I don't know why it's not. I got 1,000 subs, and it's one of the most anticipated cards of the year thus far. What's up, Toron Brown? How's it going? And what are your picks for tomorrow's event? My picks, they're already out there on YouTube, but man, this card is like, it's not that easy to predict. So many fights on paper are so like close. Like I could really see all five of these main card fights going either way. On the prelims, I think Chase Hooper wins, but I mean, I'm not overly confident going against Jim Miller. He's got a knack for taking out these young guys. I think Jandy Roba beats Yan Xiaonan, but I'm praying Yan wins. I do not like Verna. And I guess Sean Woodson beats Dan Ige. I was thinking of picking Ige, but then I realized, damn, Woodson is like, what, 6'2" at lightweight? Doesn't seem like a good matchup for Ige, but Ige is underrated. Okay, perfect. Hopefully the fight doesn't get canceled. Like I hope third time's a charm. Like I've been wanting to see that fight for a while, Jamal Hill versus Khalil Rountree, and this might be a blessing in disguise for Jamal because now he has a 6 month gap instead of a 3 month gap between the Yuri fight and this upcoming fight with Rountree. And that's how it should be. Like he shouldn't rush the comeback because he took a lot of damage against Prohaska, and Rountree is dangerous, very explosive, very powerful, and he's got potential to finish Jamal Hill. So Jamal needed that time to properly recover his brain and his chin. I got Volk beating Lopez, Pitbull beating Rodriguez, Patty beating Chandler. Yeah, I could see it. I could see it. I could see Volkanovski winning. Um, and yeah, Pitbull's my pick too, but I'm not like supremely confident in that one. I did go with Patty Pimblett in my YouTube prediction, but I don't know, man. I don't know why. I kind of feel like the opposite might happen. Like I kind of think to myself, damn, what if Michael Chandler wins? Because if you really think about it, Chandler is kind of a bad matchup for Pimblett. He really is. Like he's got the experience. Chandler is like no one Pimblett's ever fought before. Pimblett throughout his career has fought mainly cans. Um, And then, okay, he fought one decent opponent in Bobby Green, but Green kind of gave him that fight when he shot a takedown as a boxer against a jiu-jitsu guy, low IQ move, and then beat up a washed Tony. But, Chandler, he's an explosive ball of power, good wrestler, good anti-jiu-jitsu, which kind of counters Pimblett's submission game, very athletic, and I mean, if his performance against Oliveira really came down to ring rust and not so much age, and the rust is shaken off, and we see Chandler back in form, Pimblett might be cooked low key. He might be cooked, and I do hope Chandler wins. I really want Michael to get back in the win column, and Conor McGregor posted on Insta a video of himself shadowboxing saying, I'm interested in Pimblett versus Chandler. That to me tells me he's looking to face the winner, and that's got to be extra motivation for Michael Chandler. My bad, bro. Hill Roundtree is going to headline a fight night in Baku, Azerbaijan. Where is that? And did that like get officially announced just now? Dom Reyes beating Krylov. See, that's another pick that again, I could see going the opposite because I did go with Lopez, Patty, um, Pitbull, Silva, and then Krylov. I was thinking about going with Dominic Reyes though, but Krylov is really good, really well rounded. He's put up really good fights against tough competition. Guys who I think are better than Reyes, like Glover Teixeira on his, rebirth, took him to a split decision in a competitive grappling match. Gave Ankalaev a tough fight. I think Ank would kill Reyes any version. Better performance against Volkan Uzdemir, who Reyes kind of robbed. And he has more ways to beat Dominic. And I don't know if Dominic, even though he's back on this run, 2-fight win streak, Krylov, I think right now is better than current Anthony Smith or Dustin Jacoby. So I think Reyes might have a tougher fight on his hands, and I see Krylov as the safer pick. Yeah, it just got announced by James Lynch on his channel. Okay, well, good. Sounds Indian. Huh, so the UFC's going to India, and they're having two African American brothers headline an Indian card. That's interesting. That's a very interesting choice of headlines right there. Or an interesting place. An interesting headliner for an interesting location, I might say. I might add. But tomorrow's gonna be so interesting though. I'm interested to see like if Volkanovski can come back and how this layoff will affect him, if he'll come back refreshed, rejuvenated, the best he's ever looked in a while, if he'll be rusty, if his age will really show. And this 35 curse, it's real. Like nobody in these lower weight classes has ever won a title fight. Like lightweight and under, the official stat I think is 0 and 15, 0 and 17. Now if anyone could do it, I do think Volkanovski has a very good chance. He could be the one to do. I think Pantoja will be the one to break that stat though, or curse rather. But we're not gonna know until tomorrow night. But I think Lopez likely is gonna get it done, just kind of based off history, and it's rare that we see these long reigning champions, after losing their belt, regaining it. I mean, Adesanya regained it, but short term, then tried again and then lost. Um, Usman couldn't get it back after losing. I know it's like only two fighters. I'm trying to think of maybe someone else who was reigning for a long. Oh yeah, Anderson Silva couldn't get it back, but I mean he broke his leg. Who knows what would have happened if he didn't? Um, but that's still like another good example. BJ Penn couldn't get it back. Just to name a few. And champions in men's MMA who became two-time. Oh yeah, Max Holloway also couldn't get the belt back. On 3 attempts, I think. Yeah, 3 attempts. Um, and I think the two-time champs in men's MMA. Oh well, John Jones got the belt back, but I mean he never got beat for the belt. He would lose it via suspensions, then come back and take it back because no one was good enough to stop him. But like in men's MMA, the people who have got their then there's Stipe Miocic. He was long reigning. He regained the belt. So there's one example. I guess that counts, but it's kind of rare. But most two-time champs in men's MMA who regain, basically with all of them, it usually they weren't long prior. They become long reigning on their second term as champion, I think. Like George St. Pierre back in the day had no title defenses when he lost to Matt Serra. When he got it back, that's when he went on that historic run, you know? And I'm trying to think of like other examples. It's not really fresh on my mind right now, but yeah, I don't know. Volk's about to become two-time champ. There's just so much mileage on him. There's so much tape on Volkanovski now. His chin has been checked twice. He's never had a great chin to begin with, but it could be worse now. He's not getting any younger. Lopez is dangerous. He's got so much power. He's scrappy. Volkanovski, chinny, might be chinnier now. And he does kind of have a knack for getting caught early in fights. And early on is where Lopez is at his most dangerous. Because we've seen throughout Volk's career, even in his prime, he's getting caught in the early rounds against Islam in the first fight, before his prime ended. Let me use examples of when he got caught early in his prime. Round 1 and 2 against Max Holloway. Max was able to catch him off guard twice. Head kick, uppercut, drops him to his knees. Mendez dropped him in round 2. Islam Makhachev staggered him backwards, I think in the first and second round, when Volk was careless with his defense. And then past his prime, the head kick. But I really think the head kick might have ended his prime, honestly. I think that might have been the beginning of the end of Volkanovski's prime. And then Lopez was basically, or not Lopez, Topuria was basically like the nail in the coffin, if we're being real. But again, caught him early in the fight. And I think what it is with Volkanovski is maybe it takes for him to get cracked early for him to truly wake up and, snap in gear, adjust his defense, because he's good with mid-fight adjustments. But right now, at this point in his career, he cannot afford to get clipped early, because I think if Lopez catches him early, I think he'll finish him. But if Volkanovski can survive the earlier rounds, if he can be as perfect as possible, make Lopez wear him out by overswinging and missing, maybe wearing him down in the clinch, then he can get him tired, get him in the condition Ige had him in, and then maybe finish him in the late rounds. It's either Lopez knocks him out in the first 2 rounds or Volkanovski wins ground and pound TKO somewhere between the third and fifth round. That's how I see this fight unfolding. Oh, MMA Holes, what's up? The MMA Holes is in my live stream? Is that the MMA Holes? Is that the MMA Holes? I did not know the MMA Holes was paying attention. That's actually crazy. That is actually crazy. Chandler claims he's gonna be patient going into the Patty fight, but I can smell BS. Hopefully Chandler can go in there patient, like he was against Hooker. That version of Chandler is dangerous. Oh yeah, that version of Chandler was like a prime Michael Chandler. And then as his UFC career progressed, he just slowly but surely sort of started fading out of his prime because he's slipping later into his 30s, getting in all these wars. And you could really see all of that kind of add up, all that mileage add up in the last fight against Oliveira. Hold on, let me check if that's the MMA Holes and not an imposter. Well, I'll be damned. Okay, yeah, thanks, MMA Holes. I did not know that you paid attention to my channel or were watching me or subscribed, but appreciate the love, brother. I like your content as well. Okay. I believe Volk and his team are watching some Lopez fights and studying him. I believe they are game planning for Lopez to come in with that early attack. Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. I know Volkanovski's a smart fighter. He's well coached. I know Joe Lopez is cooking up a good game plan. So even though I'm picking Diego, I'm not underestimating Volkanovski. I'm not counting him out. I could definitely see him winning, even though he's 36, even though the 35 curse is real. Like I said, if anybody could break that curse, it is Alexander Volkanovski. He's definitely the man to do it, for sure. For sure. With all the years of experience and the greatness factor, that confidence that he's been here before, that's got to count for something. I mean, yeah, I think Volkanovski is a better striker than Diego too. He definitely is, but I just think Diego's power is like the equalizer. And Volkanovski does get hit in his fights. I mean, he has good defense, but he does get caught. Like Brian Ortega was able to touch him up a few times. Uh Zombie landed a few good shots, even though he got the piss beat out of him. Max couldn't touch him in the trilogy, so that doesn't count. Islam was landing good shots, but Volk underestimated his striking, which kind of explains it. But I think Lopez could land. And I mean, if he can land early and often, I think he's got enough power to put Volk away. And if Volk's chin is as deterred as I think it will be, then yeah, it might be Lopez's fight to win. And in these kind of situations, we always see the passing of the torch. Israel Adesanya and Dricus du Plessis is one example of that. Adesanya lost one fight to lose the belt, came back after a layoff, and a lot of people were picking Adesanya to beat Dricus. He was the favorite, same way how a lot of people right now are picking Volk to beat Diego. He's the favorite. Lopez could definitely spoil that return, but if Volkanovski wins the belt back, um, then honestly, he might retire with that belt. And I don't know if he'll have the same downfall as Izzy unless he loses this fight and loses in devastating fashion, which in that case, he might actually hang up the gloves. But you compare middleweight to featherweight, the current state of featherweight, it's not that talent deep. And I feel like Volkanovski is so much better than everyone else in the featherweight division. I feel like the only guy that can beat him now that Ilya is gone is Diego Lopez. Max is out of the picture, but he beat Max 3 times. Would probably do it again. Like Ilya's gone, and other guys who used to be in the featherweight division who were good, like Frankie Edgar, long gone. Chad Mendes, Volk already took care of him, but long gone. Um, Gone are the days where you got guys like Ricardo Lamas in the top five. Like, do you remember the earlier days of the featherweight division? Back when this division used to be good, or it's still kind of good, but back then you had guys like Holloway, Prime McGregor, um, Cub Swanson in his prime, Ricardo Lamas, Chad Mendes, Prime Edgar. That's when featherweight used to be heat, and then you had Jose Aldo on top of the mountain. And then Aldo lost the belt, got reinstated as champ when Connor left, lost it again to Max. And then the moment Volkanovski came, dethroned Holloway, and then he started dominating the division, and it was just both Holloway and Volk kind of co-parenting featherweight. Featherweight just kind of slowly but surely fell apart. And then it just came down to only Max and Volk being the two most skilled and elite fighters in the division while everyone else is falling behind. Then Ilya comes in the picture, but then he leaves. Max leaves. And now it feels like Volk and then everyone else. Like Volk has a skill edge over every featherweight, but Lopez's power, plus Volkanovski's mileage and the damage he's taken, it might be a factor as to why Volk loses tomorrow. But if Volkanovski wins, and looks as good as he's always looked, then I mean, does Mosvar Evloev beat him? No. Does Arnold Allen beat him? No. Does Aljamain Sterling beat him? No. Does recently signed Aaron Pico beat him? No. Patricio Pitbull doesn't beat him. So I could see Volk actually continuing his dominant run, but he's got to win tomorrow. Whereas with Israel Adesanya, even if he would have got the belt back against DDP, he still had Strickland problems. And Mavov already went on to beat him. Khamzat Chimaev was in the picture. Like middleweight right now is looking better than ever in comparison to featherweight. Let me see. Yeah, Dustin Poirier at featherweight. Yep, that's true. Dustin Poirier. But then he quickly went to lightweight the moment Connor starched him. Mark Hominick, yep. I heard back in 2014, Donald Cerrone teased a move to featherweight, but Dana White didn't allow it. Damn. Yeah, I don't think that would have worked for Donald Cerrone. He's too big. I think the weight cut would have been too much, and he probably would have got chinned by one of these top contenders. Like, could you imagine Chad Mendes back then versus Cowboy, and how quickly Mendes would end him with that big overhand? But here's how I think both guys' career trajectories will go after tomorrow. So let me start with Diego. If Diego Lopez wins, does he have a long reign in him? It's possible, but he doesn't have the skills that a Max Holloway had for a sustained run, or a Prime Volk had, or even Ilya Topuria if he didn't move up. He's explosive and powerful, but he doesn't have that kind of cardio for a 5-round fight. Although he could prove us wrong. Maybe he'll be dangerous late into the fight and finish Volk late. Or maybe he surprises us by winning a decision. Doubt it. But Movsar Evloev might beat him again. Um, but I don't know. Arnold Allen, does he beat Diego? Probably not. Lerone Murphy might have a chance against Lopez if he can avoid getting caught early. So it feels like if Lopez gets the belt, there's a chance the featherweight title passes around. But then that might sort of allow room for the division to grow and, develop and be what it once was, back in 2015 to 2017 ish. And then if Volkanovski wins, I think featherweight's probably going to stay as it is right now for a bit. But I think Volkanovski, he'll defend the belt a couple more times. And then I think he's going to revisit lightweight. And you know why? Because there's the Islam fight. He'll want the trilogy on a full camp. But if Makhachev is already long gone, he's still going to want to, rewrite history and try to become the lightweight champ again. Or not again, but try again at becoming the lightweight champ. And if Ilia Topuria becomes lightweight champ, you know that if Volk's champ again in featherweight, he's going to be chasing that rematch at lightweight. And that's going to set up a huge fight, actually. Yeah, well, I'm glad we both agree on the same thing. I'm in the minority here, though. I feel like I'm one of the only people not rooting for Volkanovski. And it's not like I'll be mad if Volkanovski wins. I respect Volk. But I've never really been a fan of Volkanovski as a petty, bitter Max Holloway fan, especially from that Fight Island robbery back in the day. I've been wanting Volk to lose that belt for so long. My dumbass picked Brian Ortega, and I know you know that, Toron, because do you remember my prediction video where I picked Ortega and you commented, oh, and still, Volk's not giving up the belt that easily? Yep, I picked Ortega, didn't happen, and then he stayed champ, dominated the trilogy, and I'm like, damn, this guy just isn't going to lose anytime soon or ever, is he? Then I got what I wanted when he moved up and lost to Islam twice. Felt bad for him the second time, though, not gonna lie. And then he loses to Ilya Topuria. By that point, I wasn't a Volk hater, and I actually did feel sad for him when he lost. But I still felt happy that he wasn't champ anymore. Okay, good. We have a new champ. We're in a new era now. And the thing is, I don't like when there's a champ who I've waited for so long for them to lose the belt, then they regain it. It's like there's no worse feeling. It's like the relief of them finally losing the belt was only temporary. That's how I felt with Amanda Nunes and Valentina Shevchenko. That's how I'm gonna feel with Volkanovski if he regains the title. So I don't want him to be champ again because I've never had that emotional attachment to him. And I just want the division to move forward into a new era, a new gen. I'm rooting for somebody new to have the featherweight championship. Um, and it would be better, I feel, for the division if Diego won, because if Volkanovski wins, there's going to be that narrative that, oh, well, I mean, whoever wins, people will say Ilya is the uncrowned featherweight champ. But if Volk wins, it'll make the division look worse because Volkanovski, he didn't beat Ilya to get the belt back. He only became champ because Ilya left. And yes, that will make Ilya look good, or yeah, it'll make Ilya look good, but it might kind of take away the credibility of the featherweight championship if Volkanovski has it again without avenging the Ilya loss. Now, if Lopez wins, people will say Lopez only became champion because, Ilya left, but Ilya Topuria never fought Diego before. There's no storyline there. So there will be a fresh new champion, and then there's room for speculation. Like, ooh, what if in the future we could get a fight with Diego and Ilya? If, let's say, Diego moves up to the lightweight division to fight Ilya, especially if Ilya becomes lightweight champ, then there's like a champ versus champ fight between Lopez and Topuria. Gene Bryce gonna be crazy. I agree. And yeah, this is a very stacked card. Oh, you're going? You're going in person? That's sick. I've never been to a UFC event in person. I mean, I've been to UFC 297, but only the weigh-ins and like the meet and greets and stuff, but I've not been to the fight. Yep, that was 2021, almost 4 years ago. It's crazy. The whole featherweight division history, it's only been 3 guys who actually held the belt there for a while. Jose Aldo, Max Holloway, and Alexander Volkanovski. Yep. And you know what? It's crazy. There's 2 other champs who could have been long reigning if they chose to stay at featherweight and didn't pursue careers at lightweight. If Conor McGregor didn't leave featherweight, he could have been the next Jose Aldo of the division. If Ilia Topuria chose to stay at featherweight and not vacate the title and continue this run, Ilya might have been the next Volkanovski of the featherweight division. So we could have had 4 or 5 dominant featherweight champions in history, if I'm being honest. Because I don't think anyone was beating Ilya for the belt ever. I think I should move. Hold on. I think also Ilya should move back to featherweight. In all reality, Mosvar should be fighting Alex at UFC 314, but according to Dana White, in the UFC he's boring. That's why he isn't getting it. But Lopez is fun. He gets an undeserved shot. I wouldn't say that it's undeserved because Lopez did beat Brian Ortega, the top 3 contender, although Ortega being in the top 3 for so long was undeserved because the guy just sat on his ranking for years while losing and hardly fighting, and then only got 1 win in like 4 years against Yair Rodriguez. But I do think Lopez deserves the shot, but based off merit, you could make an argument for Mosvar because Mosvar is undefeated. He's on this win streak. He did beat Diego Lopez, and he did beat a former champion to, well, not to get there because he didn't get a shot, but he beat Aljamain Sterling. That could have been a title shot winning performance. Before that, he beat Arnold Allen, a top contender who wasn't coming in on a win streak because Max ended that, but still, good win over Arnold Allen. And then before that, who did he beat? Diego Lopez, who's on this current run. And then before that, didn't he like beat Dan Ige? Like he might have had a bit of a layoff though in between Ige and Lopez. I can't remember how that exactly went down. But yeah, Lopez or Mosvar Evloev is on quite the run, and there is an argument that he should be getting the shot, but he did turn down the Aaron Pico fight in favor of waiting for the winner of Lopez versus Volk. Lopez and Volk both agree that Mosvar should be next. So either way, I think Evloev is going to get the shot. But you know what? If the UFC really isn't giving Lopez this or Evloev the shot right now because he's boring and not because of timing and circumstances, I think the UFC might regret that decision because Diego Lopez is a way more dangerous fight for Volk than Mosvar Evloev stylistically. Lopez has so much power in his hands. He also has a dangerous submission game. He's a more dangerous fighter than Evloev. The UFC could have gambled putting in boring Evloev in there with Volk, who has no finishing ability. His only path to victory is to out wrestle Volkanovski, who's got insane takedown defense. If anything, tomorrow night could have been a more guaranteed layup for Volk to get the belt back if he had Evloev in front of him. So the UFC, if let's say if tomorrow night Diego wins, this will confirm my statement that the UFC might have made a mistake and that they should have given it to Evloev first. Because I do think Volkanovski, even with the whole 35 curse, would still beat Movsar Evloev, even right now. Whereas even though he might beat Diego tomorrow, it feels less guaranteed because there's a high chance that Lopez could put his lights out. SMH, the UFC is a popularity contest. At this point, they're not caring about who actually deserves it. They only care about having fun fighting styles that ruin UFC, in my opinion. Movsar is going through the same thing they put Magomed through. Yeah, and it's funny. Speaking of that situation, Magomed and Evloev, they made Magomed have to go backwards and fight Rakic, who didn't deserve to fight him. And then they almost forced Evloev into fighting Aaron Pico, who didn't deserve that fight. You know, like Evloev should be waiting for the winner, not fighting a guy making his UFC debut. But I am excited about Aaron Pico coming to the UFC. I've been wanting to see him in the UFC for a while. You know, he had his first career loss in Bellator, but then bounced back. Had a win streak, but then, 2019 lost to Henry Corrales and someone else after that, but then continued going on a good run. And in that time, I'm like, I wonder what it would be like if Pico was in the UFC right now. How would he do in the UFC? But you know what? I think the timing is perfect. I think Pico is like 28 years old now. He's got more experience now. Whereas during his Bellator run, he was like in between the age of 20 to 27. So it's kind of good that he had 7 years to kind of grow and develop before crossing over to the UFC. Because if he started in the UFC, he might have got folded like early and then been gone quickly like Sage Northcutt. Because look at what happened to Sage. He was in the UFC in his early 20s, started losing these fights, and then left. Or didn't he leave the UFC coming off a win, actually? I'm pretty sure he did. He left the UFC coming off a win and went to ONE FC, but never came back to the UFC since. Now that I have 1,000 subscribers, again, now my channel is monetized. Like, I think, I'm not sure if on your end you can see the super chat feature, donation features, but I think that might be open now, which is good. I've been like waiting for the longest time to monetize my channel. And for some reason, I think I couldn't on my original channel. And that might have been because of all the copyright um, violations I committed. My mistake, my fault. But I think that's why they couldn't monetize it. But then this channel, I've kept everything clean. No copyright strikes. Well, I've had a couple, but I haven't gotten 3. Because if I got 3, this channel would be in danger of being, taken down again. And what's crazy is if my other channel didn't get taken down, who knows? This whole DJC moniker might have blown up. I might have had like 5,000 subs, maybe even more. But the fact that I was willing to, I was willing to start from scratch, even though I didn't want to. Most people in my shoes would have given up, and I'm like, nah, I'm trying again, and I'm going to work my way back. And even though it took a long, frustrating 3 years from November 2022 to April 2025, here we are. I worked my way back, and now I'm here with 1K again. But yeah, UFC 314 should be pretty good. And man, I hope that Yan Xiaonan beats Fernand Robles' ass. I really do. I'm really rooting for Yan Xiaonan to win. And I wonder what's going to happen between the winner of that fight, because I know Zhang Weili is like talking about wanting to go to flyweight to fight Valentina if Valentina beats Manon Furo, which she most likely will. Hope not, though, because I need Grasso avenged. Um, there's a chance that the winner of tomorrow night might fight Zhang. So we might see Wei Li fight one more time in women's strawweight before moving up. But if not, the winner of this fight between Jan and Verna could fight for the vacant title, and they might end up fighting Mackenzie Dern. But if Zhang Wei Li ends up like leaving the weight class, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna leave the door open for that strawweight title. And I think there's a chance that Tatiana might get the belt. I know it's not what people want to hear. They're happy the overrated Tatiana got exposed and they think she'll never be champion. But if Whaley's gone and if Tatiana can stay injury free, healthy, and active, I think she can beat whoever gets the vacant title if someone fights for the vacant title. Let me read these comments. I know you disagree with this, but I think Dana is bad for the UFC. Yeah, I get he knows how to put on cards, but he's very crooked and dirty individual. No, I do agree. And lately he seems too concerned with power slap. And right now the UFC's focusing too much on like quantity over quality. Like they're putting on too many fight nights, even if it means, putting on crappy cards. They're using back-to-back weekends of UFC cards as an excuse to use the Apex with weak cards so they don't have to spend any money on these like venue fight nights in like arenas in different states of America or different countries. It's like we only have fight nights in arenas once a month if you notice. We never have fight nights in arenas on back-to-back weekends like the old days, right? Pre-COVID, you had fight nights literally from one arena to another, from one state to the next, to one country to the next. Now the UFC, they're so cheap, they don't want to invest money in that anymore. That's why they haven't gotten rid of the Apex. The Apex, it's free, convenient, not costly, and anyone can headline the Apex. Whereas if it's a legit card in an arena, they have to actually put in more quality investment into these cards. And they don't want to have to do that. Because Dana White's coming off as a bit lazy. That's what I think. But what really made me dislike Dana is when he started shitting on Francis for absolutely no reason. Yeah, I agree. Dana White did a few fighters dirty. Like, he's the reason why Francis is not in the UFC anymore. And he's the reason why Cyborg isn't in the UFC anymore. John Jones waited for years to come back to the UFC and come to the heavyweight division. He was stalling out that Francis fight. I mean, I believe if Francis didn't leave, John Jones eventually would have fought him. And I mean, Dana did claim that he offered like Francis the biggest payday of his life, and Francis turned it down. But I think there might be more that went into that Dana White is not revealing. He might only be fabricating some of the story to make himself sound like the good guy, right? But it might be his fault that Francis is gone and we never got the John Jones fight, right? And then Cyborg, same thing. She wanted the Nunes rematch. We all wanted it. And he did Cyborg dirty, removed her, fired her from the UFC roster, and claimed she left because she ducked Amanda Nunes. And Ngannou left because he ducked John Jones. We know both things aren't true. And the way Dana did Mighty Mouse was ridiculous. I also agree with that. We lost Francis, we lost Cyborg, and we lost Mighty Mouse. because of Dana White. They decided to trade their guy for Ben Askren, who had a terrible UFC run. The only fun thing about Ben in the UFC was his mouth, his marketing ability, his ability to market himself. Like, Ben was a funny personality. I liked Ben Askren, but he came way too late and was like way past his prime by that point. Looked terrible against Robbie Lawler. Terrible in that fight. Should have lost. Herb Dean made a terrible judgment call. Then he gets knocked out by journeyman Street Judas Masvidal and made Masvidal into a big star, and then gets choked out and retired by Damian Maya. And it's like, wow, we traded the GOAT DJ for this? I mean, sure, it made Masvidal a big star, you know? It made the big headliner in UFC 244 between Diaz and Masvidal for the BMF title. Maybe none of that would have happened without, you know, DJ getting traded, but all of that felt like short term. Like, we got short term pleasure, but in exchange for long term consequences. That's how it feels like. And I don't really know how to properly explain this, but it's like, okay, we got Diaz Masvidal, but it ended abruptly. Doctor stoppage. No one was happy. Jorge became the BMF champion. He became a big name, but he never became the undisputed welterweight champion, and fell off a cliff after and then ended up retiring. Right? Where is Nate Diaz now? Um, and it's like, we could have still had Demetrius in the UFC. We could have had a rematch with Demetrius and Cejudo. Cejudo deserved it. And maybe if Henry beat DJ again, then DJ could leave and go to ONE FC. But the fact that he left without even getting his immediate rematch is criminal. And if it wasn't for DJ getting traded, we could have seen matchups like DJ versus Pantoja, the matchup that everyone's talking about right now, that everyone wants. We could have seen Demetrius Johnson versus the likes of Davis and Figueiredo, Brandon Moreno, and Pantoja. That would have felt more worth having than Masvidal becoming a star off knocking out Ben in 5 seconds and fighting Nate Diaz for the BMF title, you know? And you know what? Everything with Masvidal still could have happened without Ben in the picture, because he already made a name for himself coming off a layoff, knocking out Till, and then having the iconic three-piece Minnesota line from not knocking out, but from piecing up Leon backstage. So from there, Masvidal started to gain traction and momentum and notoriety. Now, Ben was like the big push that he needed, but there's still a chance that he could have got the Nate Diaz fight regardless. Nate might have still called him out, and they might have still been able to make the BMF title fight. Like, Ben was a flash in the pan, an unnecessary flash in the pan. Like, that wasn't worth the exchange. The trade was not worth it between DJ and Ben Askren. Another thing that Dana did that angered me was when he took away fighter sponsorships with that Reebok deal years ago. Took their way of making money, then wonder why people complain about money. Yep, and that's why we've lost a lot of big names in the UFC. Rory MacDonald left the UFC because he wasn't making enough money off Reebok. Same thing with Ryan Bader. Same thing with Phil Davis, I believe. And these are guys who could still be in the UFC today, right now. Like, that's what frustrates me. Gegard Mousasi couldn't make the money he wanted because of the Reebok sponsorship. He left. The UFC didn't compensate him. How many of these guys who went to Bellator could still be here right now if people could have their own sponsorships? Dana did Corey Anderson bogus, refused to give him his deserved oh, I can't see this comment. It's blocked by the stupid referral link ad. Okay, hold on. Yeah. Dana did Corey Anderson bogus when he refused to give him his deserved title shot against John Jones because he was quote unquote boring. That was BS. Corey wasn't boring at all. And you see what Corey did. He stood up to Dana White, went to Bellator. Dana hates when fighters stand up to him. Yep, like Francis Ngannou, like Cyborg, had them removed from the roster. But you know what? Anderson should have got a title shot. I think the timing of when he should have got a title shot, it could have been right after UFC 232. It could have been against John Jones at 235. I get why they gave it to Smith and Thiago Santos because they were getting these knockouts. They were new to the light heavyweight division. Light heavyweight at the time was weak. It was looking for talent and excitement. So there was appeal in giving it to Smith and Thiago at the time. But I think after that, I think that's when Corey should have got a title shot. I think after he knocked out Walker, he should have got John Jones at UFC 247. It shouldn't have been Dominic Reyes. Dominic and Blachowicz should have fought each other at UFC. What was that place in Texas? Um, that fight night in Texas. I can't remember where. Oh, Rio Rancho. Was that where they fought? Anderson and Blachowicz. Anyway, that's the fight that should have happened. Blachowicz, Reyes, and John Jones and Corey Anderson. But instead, they make Corey have to rematch a guy he already beat years ago. He takes the risk, he loses, and then he leaves and goes to Bellator. And he might have stayed in the UFC if the UFC just paid him his worth, but they refused because they didn't like Corey. It's almost conference time. Damn, what time does it start? Because I might need to click off this live and tune in when it's time. But man, I hope Kayla Harrison, I hope she goes out there. Or sorry, what am I talking about? I hope Juliana Pena goes out there and shocks the world against Kayla Harrison. I'm praying to God that Juliana has another big upset in her. All right, I might watch the press conference after this live. I'm not going to be on here like much longer, like anyway, because I like got other plans for this evening. I might need to leave my house at 6 because I'm seeing a movie. So and I got to eat dinner. But yeah, man, I need Pena to win this fight. I want her to silence the doubters, to shut people up. And I think she does have a chance, a slim one. But if Kayla looks anywhere near as bad as she did against Ketlin, and let's say the weight cut affects her ability to go 5 rounds effectively, Juliana Pena might be able to melt her. Maybe she could find a submission in the late rounds. All right, see ya. All right, we got 7 views. Now 5. Um and it's like fighters had sponsor shorts. They were more creative, not basic like these current fight kick uniforms. Yeah, but the UFC, they're kind of making up for it by allowing custom kits, which is cool, it's creative. Like, so for example, if you had the UFC icons of the past fighting today, like if Liddell was fighting right now, or Rampage, or Tito, any of these guys, or Anderson Silva, you might see them in their iconic shorts they rocked back then, but in Venom custom version. But I still agree with you. It's like it's not quite the same as it once was. I totally see what you're saying, bro. Because even with these custom gears, there's no diversity. Because back then, when people had their free sponsorships, they didn't all wear the exact same shorts every single fight. Like Alex Pereira, if he fought back in the early 2010s or like the late 2000s, he wouldn't wear the exact same native Indian trunks that he rocks right now. He would probably mix it up. He might have a different design. Holloway wouldn't just rock the floral shorts. Gaethje wouldn't just rock the dark American design shorts. Same with Michael Chandler. There would be a little bit of diversity. The shorts that Moreno has, he might mix it up and dabble in something else. Who's Don King? But it sucks that Corey Anderson left the UFC. Like, so much could have been different. We had so many wrestlers in the light heavyweight division who went to Bellator. Corey Anderson, Phil Davis, Ryan, Darth Vader. Or Bader, not Vader. What if these guys were still in the UFC right now? Could you imagine how much different history would have been? Alex Pereira might have not gotten close to that belt, or he might have not held it as long as he did. Because I think Ryan Bader beats Corey, or he lost to Corey. Ryan Bader would beat Alex Pereira. Corey Anderson, I think, would beat Alex Pereira. Phil Davis, the Brazilian killer who's never been knocked out before, I think would beat Alex Pereira. Like, I don't think Pereira is the best light heavyweight in the world overall, like across multiple different organizations. I think if Phil Davis was in the UFC right now, he beats Pereira. Corey Anderson right now beats Pereira. Bader right now at light heavyweight, he's a bit chinnier now. I think he's much better at heavyweight. But if he could healthily still make 205, I think he beats someone like Pereira relatively dominantly. So the fact that we lost out on these big wrestlers, these top wrestlers, because of contractual or contract issues, it really changed the landscape of the light heavyweight division. And we don't really have many good wrestlers at 205. I mean, we have Ankalaev, but he's more of a striker, if anything. Who can wrestle? Tomorrow is going to be crazy. Let's go, Gene. Yeah, I'm rooting for Silva too. Fuck Bryce Mitchell, a Hitler supporter. Fuck him. I hope Gene Silva knocks this guy's head through the front row. Don King is a boxing promoter. He was like that, like Dana, greedy, money hungry, dog. He pays fighters breadcrumbs. Damn. UFC taking all PFL good fighters. Can't wait until Dakota's in the UFC. Me too, bro. It's coming. Dakota's gonna be in the UFC in 2026, or maybe even this year. But I can feel it, bro. She's gonna be in the UFC, and she's gonna add life. She's gonna add life to the women's flyweight division. Yo, what's up, Jamil? You watching the PFL fights today? Nah. Let's be real, man. No one watches PFL. PFL has reduced to a wasteland. And I think PFL buying out Bellator might have been the worst thing ever to happen to that organization. Because Bellator was actually successful for the run that it had from like, how long was Bellator around? Wasn't it around from like 2009 to 2024? But for however long Bellator lasted, it had a good run. It was stealing UFC's talent, making it a name for itself. That was a successful 15-year organization. And now that PFL bought Bellator, it doesn't know what it's doing. And now you're seeing a lot of guys who went to the PFL from Bellator. Some of them didn't even fight and are already leaving because they can't stand what's going on in the PFL. PFL is underpaying their fighters, not giving them enough fights. That's why Pitbull didn't stay and went to the UFC. That's why Pico didn't stay and went to the UFC. And that's why Ryan Bader is talking about, going back to the UFC. Like, I think within a year from now, PFL might crash and burn. It might be non existent. And a lot of these fighters might have no choice but to go to the UFC. Because right now, we're running out of other big organizations that could be like an alternate for the UFC. We don't got Strikeforce, WEC, Pride, Bellator anymore. GFL just got canceled, so that's out of the picture. There's ONE FC, but I don't know if many fighters are going to keep going there. And if we don't have PFL, a lot of fighters are going to have to go in the UFC. Yeah, I know he went to yeah, I know the history of that with with Phil Davis. I know about that lore. It was after he lost to Ryan Bader, then he went to Bellator, which is kind of disappointing. Because Phil Davis was a solid top five light heavyweight contender. You know, he had momentum. He had just dominantly defeated Glover Teixeira. Impressive performance. Then he loses to Bader, and then that's it. He just leaves, which kind of sucks. I kind of wish he stayed, honestly. And you know what else sucks too? Like Anthony Rumble Johnson, when he ended his retirement, he didn't come back to the UFC. He didn't come back to UFC. Instead he went to Bellator and had one fight because he died after, unfortunately. But like he could have made his comeback in the UFC. And I remember with Rumble, his comeback was rumored to be in the heavyweight division. But then he started getting lean, getting in shape, and then changed his mind to go to 205. And then by that point, he decided I'm going to Bellator, which I don't know why he did that. Um, Hold on. Okay, I already read that comment. Uh, Let me see. Rampage left the UFC after the Reebok deal. He said in a podcast he refused to fight in that Reebok kit. I remember that. And that explains why his UFC return was a one-off against Fabio Maldonado. I mean, I think he was still under contract with Bellator anyway. He had like a dual contract, but I think he chose not to get out of the Bellator contract because he didn't want to fight in that Reebok kit, especially back then. Because if Rampage stayed, he would have had no choice but to wear like the black shorts with like the white lining across the leg, or the white shorts with a black lining across the leg. That basic limited look, that just takes away from Rampage's personality. And I don't think Rampage would have lasted into the Venom era where we start to see sponsorship shorts. Or not sponsorship, I mean custom shorts. Because if Rampage stayed after Fabio Maldonado, I don't think he would have had a successful second run in the UFC, and he eventually would have left and went back to Bellator anyway. Or maybe retired before the Venom era, leading to the, custom trunks. But I wonder what would have happened, though, if Phil Davis stayed, if Corey Anderson stayed. If Corey stayed, there's a good chance he might have been champion at 205 in the UFC because Glover Teixeira, who we already beat, became champion. And then Glover lost to Yuri and Hill. Um, but then Alex Pereira got the belt. And I think that's such a winnable fight for Corey. The only thing that would worry me for Corey in that fight is his lack of chin. Like, he could get chinned by Poatan potentially. Or he might get too comfortable testing his stand up early. Then he could get clipped, put down. Um, but if he's able to get his wrestling game going, I think he dominates Pereira and he might have gotten that belt. I mean, I don't think Corey would beat the likes of Yuri Prohaska. I Jamal Hill would probably beat him because he's gotten to take down the fence. I think Anka Live would beat him, but I think Corey could beat guys like Rakic. I think he beats Krylov. I think he beats Kurt Dominic Reyes. I think Corey could still beat a lot of guys in the UFC, actually. Let me just open up these rankings. Let me see. So in the current light heavyweight division, if we add Corey Anderson in the picture, like right now, I think Corey dominates washed, mentally and physically washed Anthony Smith. He beats Alonzo Menefield. He beats whoever that guy is, Bogdan Guskov. He beats him. Asmat. I don't even know who half of these guys are. What the hell? But I think he beats them. Dominic Reyes right now, I think Reyes from a few years ago beats Corey because he was a monster back then. Like before the John Jones fight, he was dangerous. But right now, I don't know. I think Corey might grind him down. I know Reyes has the takedown defense, but he does have kind of questionable cardio. I think Corey could wear him down with his pace, relentless pressure, relentless takedown attempts, gas him out, and eventually gets him. If it's like a 5 rounder, Corey might melt him over 5 rounds, win a decision. But Reyes could still catch him early. Walker, I think Anderson beats him again. He doesn't knock him out again, but I think this time he dominates with his wrestling. Volkan Oezdemir, dangerous fight because Volkan Oezdemir's got that clinch strength, solid takedown defense, one-shot knockout power. But I think Anderson could work his wrestling game and win that fight. I said earlier he beats Krylov. Now, it gets risky when you go up the ladder from 7 to the champion. He could beat Khalil, but Khalil is dangerous. That guy is a tank. But Roundtree can't wrestle. We saw what Kutelaba did to him, so I think Corey might wrestle fuck him, win that fight. Rakic, big, good takedown defense, but very defensive, but he's got better striking. Tricky matchup, but I'm going to say Corey wins that fight. I think he beats Blachowicz in the trilogy. I think Jan kind of fluked that win, honestly. I think if that fight went longer and Corey had a chance to properly settle into the fight and didn't make that mistake of throwing that sloppy leg kick in close range that got him countered and was able to start working his wrestling, I think he would have tired Jan out and done much of the same thing he did in the first fight, but over 5 rounds. So I think right now Corey wins, and plus Jan Blachowicz deteriorated past his prime, not that same Jan from 2020. So I think Corey wins the trilogy relatively easily. Jamal Hill, I think Jamal Hill would win. He's got good takedown defense as shown against Teixeira, even though Teixeira doesn't have as good wrestling as Corey. I think Jamal could still defend takedowns, outstrike him, knock him out. Alberg, if Alberg's takedown defense is really good, I think Alberg beats him. But I'm not quite sure, but I'm going to probably just say Alberg wins. Yuri wins. He's a wild card, good takedown defense. If you take him down, he gets back up. Corey has a lot of, or Yuri has a lot of power. I think he'd find that chin and put him away. Pereira, I think Corey wins, but it's a dangerous fight. Like Corey cannot meddle around the stand up too long, or he will get chinned. Ankalaev wins because he does have the wrestling to match Corey, and he's got better striking. I think he would do to Corey what Vadim Nemkov did in the rematch. So if Anderson was in the UFC right now, I think the furthest he'd go is probably number 5 in the division. But then loses. He only beats one guy in the top 5, which is Alex, but probably loses to Jamal and Alberg and definitely loses to Yuri and does not beat the champion. Imagine Anthony Johnson versus Hill. Oh, yeah. Rumble would destroy Jamal Hill. He would sleep Jamal. I used to think that would be a good matchup and maybe a fight that Jamal could win, but that was before, Jamal was getting chinned back to back by Poatan and Yuri Prohaska. That was when he beat Glover Teixeira, and I was in that phase of overrating his skills. This is before the injury and before he started losing. But yeah, I don't think Hill could handle a prime, alive Anthony Rumble Johnson. I mean, look what Poatan did to him. Walked him down, walked him against the cage. The moment he landed clean, Hill folded. And whenever Yuri Prohaska was able to touch him, Jamal Hill would get shook, have big reactions, and get dropped and get finished. I don't think he's got the chin to handle Rumble's power. I mean, no one does. And he doesn't have the proper defense to evade it either. I think Rumble would win that fight by first round knockout. And I always thought that Jamal's chin was overrated because I remember people highlighting him having a good chin after the Glover fight because Glover landed a few shots and he took it, or washed up Tiago, landed some shots and he took it. But it's like, here's the thing: Santos, post Jones injury, not as powerful as he used to be because of his knees not being the same, not being able to properly sit down his punches or explode the way he used to be or used to be able to. Glover has power, but not that kind of power. He's not a knockout artist. So it made sense that Jamal was able to take those shots. But I knew going into the Pereira fight, if Pereira lands, he's putting him down. Hence why I picked him. I also knew that if Yuri Prohaska could start connecting, he would put him away. Hence why I picked him, and I was right about both things. Rumble Johnson been dead almost 3 years. It'll be three, I believe, this upcoming November. I know, it's so sad, man. Really tragic what happened to Rumble. I really liked him. He was one of my favorite fighters ever. And when he retired, and it nearly brought me to tears when he said to John Jones, maybe we didn't give the people the fight they wanted, but maybe in the next life. That made me so sad. I was so sad when Cormier beat him and he retired. When he came back and had a triumphant return and knocked out the late replacement for Yoel Romero, I was hyped. I remember when he was booked to fight Nemkov in the tournament, I picked Rumble to win that fight. I said Rumble's going to be the light heavyweight champion in Bellator, and I believe he would have won. I believe he would have beat Nemkov and been champion. But then he gets sick. And when he got sick, I didn't think it was life threatening. I mean, I know he got checked in the hospital, but I thought, okay, he's going to get the treatment he needs, and then he's going to come back. He's going to recover. He's going to fight again in 2022. But a whole year goes by. I'm waiting. I notice Anthony Rumble Johnson loses weight. He looks in bad condition. I'm like, oh, I mean, is he going to come back anytime soon? I started losing confidence in him coming back, and then out of nowhere, the day after UFC 281, I find out that he's dead. So this whole time, he, I guess, has been battling cancer for a year, and I didn't even know he had cancer or whatever kind of illness. I didn't know it was that lingering to where he just couldn't recover. Like, it's so sad. Like, Rumble's return, his second run in his career, in Bellator could have been something special. Yet Bonner died in that same year. That's crazy. If Hill loses to Roundtree, he probably retires. He doesn't strike me as a guy to just fight if he isn't getting the belt, or isn't a championship fighter. Yeah, I can see it. I mean, I don't know if Jamal will give up. He might stick around for the sake of making money fighting. But if he does lose, he probably should pull a Jalen Turner. But if he wins, he's back in the mix. I mean, not right away because he'll be 1-2 in his last three. He'll need another win or two to get back in the title picture, but he'll be in a good position if he does beat Khalil Roundtree. And yeah, that was crazy that Bonner died. How did he die? Was it like a drug overdose or something? Like, what happened to him? But yeah, I'm still under the belief that Rumble would have beaten Nemkov. I mean, when Nemkov fought that Lithuanian dude who stepped in to replace him, when Nemkov fought that Lithuanian dude, he dropped Vadim Nemkov early in the fight. And I'm like, if that was Anthony Rumble Johnson, Rumble would have put Nemkov to sleep with that same punch. I believe that. I truly believe that would have happened. I know for a fact it would have happened. And people were picking Nemkov because, oh, that other dude, Jose Augusto dropped him early. But that was Rumble coming off literally a 4-year layoff. He hadn't fought in forever. That was just him shaking off the cobwebs, the ring rust. I think he would have came back. If he stayed healthy, he would have came back in like peak form, I believe, and been able to get that title. Yeah, I wonder why Lopez didn't get custom shorts either, but I guess it's not for everybody. when Lopez, I mean, sorry, not when, because I can't say for sure that he wins, but if Diego Lopez does become the champion, then I do think he does deserve the custom gear. Or he will get custom gear if he becomes champ, because that's like a common trend. Everyone who becomes champ now gets custom shorts. It's like black and gold is sort of out of style. Like the only champ recently to wear black and gold of the current champs was Pantoja. John Jones went custom. DDP went custom. Um, who else? Marab went custom. Islam went custom. Pereira still rocking the custom. Wei Lee. I mean, I know Raquel wore custom shorts, but she's not champ anymore. And I wonder if Pena's going to wear custom at UFC 317. Or, I mean, 316, actually. Bonner died from an overdose. That's a form of suicide or accidentally suicide, though. Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, I remember. My memory serves me correct. It was an overdose. That sucks, man. I remember I grew up watching Bonner. I remember him on The Ultimate Fighter when he had that bloodbath war with Forrest Griffin. Absolute classic. I remember as a kid seeing the action figures, like the dual box set, seeing both Forrest Griffin and Bonner in the same package, bloody faces, and the iconic tough shorts. And I remember Bonner got slept by Anderson Silva. I'm highlighting one of his losses. Damn, what am I doing? But I remember his career overall. Bonner was exciting to watch, man. Like, I couldn't believe when I heard the news that he died. Rapper Rich Homie Quan died that same way. Yeah, that sucked. I like Rich Homie Quan. I like that song Rich Flex. That was my jam back in 2015. When a person overdoses, they're going through some kind of depression. Yeah, and I know that Bonner was definitely going through something. And it sucks that he didn't get the help that he needed emotionally, mentally. Okay. All right. So I've been on here for an hour. I think I'm gonna end the stream now, but thank y'all for joining, and it was a pretty fun conversation. Kind of ended on a sad note with the overdose stuff and talking about Rumble's death, but I'll reappear live like later this week, maybe even tomorrow night. We'll see. Depends on if I have time or what I got going on tomorrow. But yeah, peace out.